Tell me what's on your mind. What led up to this before you were mine? I wanna understand you and know you inside out. So let's talk about you.
Hey everybody, it's Kat, and I want to welcome you to this episode of Backstory Sessions. I'm joined today by my co-host, Willie. Hey, Willie.
Hi, Kat. How are you?
I'm great. We've had a really exciting 4th of July weekend.
Oh, yeah.
We had a great guest in Lee Greenwood.
Yes.
And today we've got another great guest. And our guest today, I know some of firsthand because I am actually a part of IGOT Communities, but I did not know how it began. And I've never really met Debbie, and that's our guest today. She's going to tell us everything that we want to know.
Okay.
All right.
That sounds exciting.
Well, you know it will be. Okay, so our guest today, she's the founder of IGOT Communities, and I could tell you what that stands for because we play that on bingo, but I'm not going to yet, so you have to wait. Willie, do you have any idea what IGOT stands for?
Well, I don't know what IGOT is, but I do know what EGOT stands for. So I'm interested to find out what IGOT stands for.
Well, you will really like it, and we're going to talk about how she came up, with that being the name of it. But this is a community that helps, adults that are 55 and older to stay active socially, physically, spiritually. It's just really a great place where people gather and build community. So we're going to explore the backstory and the woman behind this mission. So Debbie Gilbert, we want to welcome you to Backstory Sessions. We're so excited to have you as our guest today.
Thank you, Kat and Willie. I'm excited to share the story.
Well, before we get that story, what is your backstory? Where did you grow up? And tell us all about your early years.
I grew up in London, Kentucky. I've always lived here. In fact, I live on the street where I lived when I was born. And so I'll be 70 this year in a couple of months. And sorry about that. So I grew up here just in the small town of London, and I am the daughter of Hayes and Ollie Clark. Dad was a railroader, and Mom was a stay-at-home mom. I had three sisters and a brother. So now we're a family of about 58. And we get together at every holiday and every time you turn around. Graduated from Laurel County High School. Was stay-at-home. Got married at 17, actually, and then became a mom when I was 22. We have one son, and then I wanted to be a stay-at-home mom. That was my dream. I wanted to be a housewife like my mom was. And so I did that for 14 years. And after 14 years, I went back to school and graduated with my degree in art education from Berea College. And then I waited 10 years and went back to school and went to Liberty University, got a master's in marriage and family therapy, and then waited almost 4 years and went back to school. And I'm still at the dissertation stage at the University of the Cumberlands in counseling, supervision, and leadership.
So you'll be Dr. Gilbert pretty soon.
Oh, someday when I ever get the time to get it finished. And I was almost finished when COVID happened. And after that little stay-at-home time, it's just been really hard to get started back. I was in my research project, actually, during that time. So anyway, and so actually, though, that's where IGOT Communities was birthed while I was in a grant writing class there at the University of Cumberland.
Oh, wow. Well, we're going to get to that part. When you look back, over the early years up until, I don't know, mid years, we'll say, what influenced the way that you saw or see service and community?
I was raised by a wonderful mother who had a very much missional servant's heart. We grew up in the Calvary Baptist Church in London, and all the time, my mother was serving other people. And from the time I was very young, I was around older people. And I loved them because during my very young ages, most of my Sunday school teachers they seemed really old. And now I know they weren't, but they seemed old at the time.
Yeah.
And I always had such a heart for the aging population. So I think that's where it started. And I always, all through my life, had felt deep compassion for people, especially, I think, if I sensed people felt lonely, I think I had just such a compassionate heart for those people. I just didn't want anybody to be alone or have a need if I could do something to help.
Well, we had a guest, Sarah Friedman, and she had worked with dementia patients and made a documentary about one in particular. But she was talking about how the older person still saw themselves as, all the things that they were, but having dementia or whatever the illness was, but that the caretakers often kind of diminished them to the disease or to the situation. So, how have you been able to help people to grow older with dignity? Like, how do you achieve that?
So I think what happened when I got my degree in counseling, originally I started working with just marriage and family. And then just prior to COVID, I got just a host of calls from all over the place, people who would say things like, can you see my mom? She has never in her life been depressed. She has retired, and it's like she don't even know what to do now. And then I would get calls and somebody would say, my mom has died and my dad is grieving. He doesn't know what to do now. He doesn't know the next step. And then somebody would call and say, my mom is 62. She just found out she has COPD and something else to go with that. And she's just really so anxious. And at that time, Kat, prior to COVID, Medicare did not pay for counseling services for senior adults unless you were inpatient. And I just started thinking, okay, so what can I do? Where do I start? What can I do? And of course, I had a local private practice here. So I would think about it a lot because the calls just were increasing to such great Also, remember, I had just turned, I think, about 62. I was in my early 60s. And I was thinking, oh my gracious, this is my age. These are my people. So, so what I started doing, I started arranging at apartment complexes for seniors little sessions. I would go and I would tell the managers, I'll come if you have a community room, and I'll do a little session on grief, or I'll do a little session on how to get through anxiety as you age. And really, that's really kind of how I started with communities. So in the meantime, I was taking a grant writing class. So do you want me to go on into this at this time, or?
Well,
I don't want to get ahead of you.
Willie, I think you know what's headed. We're going to get into IGOT and how it was born at the University of the Cumberlands here in a grant writing class of all things. So what questions do you have before we jump into that part?
Well, I too grew up, I live with my mother and my grandmother, and, I sort of also gravitated toward older people. So, did you have, were you more in tune with older people than you were like people your own age?
I think all my life I've been more in tune with people older than myself. And I think, Willie, it's because early on, I used to sit on the porch with my grandfather, and he would tell stories, and I would love the stories he would tell me about my great grandmother. And I just always loved the stories of life, all kinds of stories of life. And so I think probably sitting, listening to his stories, and then I just loved other people's stories. I wanted to know more about their experiences, and because I think we learned a lot from all of that. But I just had such a respect for their stories, and especially people who had lived through hard suffering and troubles. And I don't know, maybe that's even in part why I became a counselor. But every story to me is so connected to the whole world. And every story, even though some people think that their life has not been exciting, or that nothing great's really happened with them, the more you talk with them, the greater you realize how much people's stories have become such a fabric of our United States and our communities, even our states. But I just love the stories. And so I guess probably I love learning. I still take classes. I'm a lifelong learner because I want to learn everything I can from everybody I can. And a lot of those people are a lot older than me, and not now, but a lot of my teachers are a lot younger than me. But still, you just learn so much, and you learn so much about the value of life and respect, and just a lot of the things I value in my own moral compass.
All right, Willie, are you ready to hear about how IGOT came to be?
Yes.
All right, so you're at the grant writing class.
Yeah. It was grant writing and proposal development, and it was a required class for leadership. And Dr. Aaron Anderson was actually the professor of that class. So I'm taking the class, and there was just a lot of discussion in the class, but we only had one assignment, and the one assignment was that if we could write a grant for an underserved population, and after we did that, we believed that this grant could make a real change in the world for the better. What would that grant look like? And so I came home. My son at that time was an executive with Anthem, and he worked in the Medicare field. But actually, we were sitting right in this room I'm sitting in right now, and this was back in 2019. And we were just throwing ideas around. And I was saying to him, well, the fastest growing population that's underserved is the 65 and older population. And actually, by 2030, it's predicted that there will be 71 million people over 65, and that by 2050, that number would be 2.1 billion. And so I already knew from some of the other research that I'd done that the aging population in the United States was the most underserved. And I also knew that there were people who, as you retire, your income becomes very static, because you usually don't have most people retire and they don't get jobs, or they didn't get jobs. And so they went from maybe having $4,000 a month income, or $6,000 to $2,000 or $3,000. And then many people that age actually had not worked and paid into the Social Security system. Many had been housewives, and so they were drawing $700 a month or $900 a month. And so I was talking about that with my son, and he was talking with me because he was working in the Medicare end of insurance with Anthem. And he was talking about all the stories that they would hear about people and the struggles where they were having to choose between food and medicine, or rent and food. And it was just very heartbreaking. And so we kept bouncing that off, thinking about all that. We would sit here and we talked the whole afternoon about it. And so we started talking about things that help us age well. What could we do? What could we do for an underserved population that would help them age well? And so one thing that we knew is that they needed to be independent. And so the I actually stands for independently, because the longer they can stay in their homes, the healthier they are and the longer they live. The other thing we've talked about was that was important to me was that I never wanted to retire and my brain stop. I always wanted to be growing in knowledge and in truth. And so that's where the G come from, the growing, independently growing. And the truth of the matter is they were, and I am, and we are all getting older. And that's not a bad thing. What's bad is the way you think about it. If you think about it in a negative way. And then, so that's the O, IGO. And T is about community. That is very important to have social connections as you age, because when you retire, you lose your real family. We have a family unit, which is a husband, a wife, and kids. But you spend very little time with those people, usually during your working years. You're with all kinds of people outside of your home in your job. And that's really where you spend a lot of your time in your family. That's your family. Well, when you retire and you leave that family there's a lot of grief. There's a lot of loss that comes with that. You're losing your friends. You're losing a sense of your value because you had a job that was important to that group of people. And so that was your community. And so you come home and you have this idea. Some people come home and they have this idea. Okay, so I've worked hard. I'm going to travel some. And some people think, okay, I'm going to fix up the house. I've got a lot of projects. I'm going to do all of that. And then for many people, it's finally I have time to spend with my family. And so all kinds of things happen when you retire because you go home to a husband or a wife that you really don't know to because you've spent 15 minutes talking to them in the morning, a little bit talking to them in the evening. Then you go to bed, you wake up, you do it all over again. And so it's tough. And I knew from counseling that's tough because I was seeing a lot of people who were retiring and considering divorce because it was so tough. Then you have this idea, I'm going to spend all this time with my grandkids. Well, by the time you retire, your grandkids, they're almost teenage age. And so they have their own busy life. And so you're ending your prime time, your family's just beginning their prime time, and you're thinking, I'm going to spend all this time with them, and they're thinking, I don't have any time to spend with you. So then that causes a lot of anxiety, a lot of hurt, a lot of grief. Then your body's breaking down somewhat, and especially if you haven't cared for it very well. And so now you have illness and disease that you're dealing with. And so all of those golden years are not turning out so golden after all. And then you're home.
The frantic search for a lost backpack, the walk to the bus stop. Did homework get put back in the send home folder? You've had a whole day before your morning even begins. Sound familiar? School schedules can turn your home into a whirlwind. At PA Cyber, we eliminate the chaos through a calm, focused experience. PA Cyber is an alternative K-12 public school that is the perfect fit for your lifestyle, while still offering all the experiences you expect from a school. Visit pacyber.org to learn more.
And so what we know from a psychological standpoint and studying the way that community works, when you leave the workplace and you retire, if you don't connect pretty fast, even in 2 weeks, you start the onset of depression and anxiety. And so that's where we came in and thought, okay, what's the organization? And Chris said, okay, so you're independently growing older together. And we're just sitting there talking about, and then he just said, well, that says IGOT. And, so then we thought, okay, so what's this going to look like? So I thought, well, I'm going to these little apartment complexes, Chris, and I'll go to this little apartment complex and this little apartment complex, and we'll just do this little London thing. And that's what we started doing. And I started out with 3 people at this one place, and we finally built to about 20 at one of the other apartment places, but it was really, really small. And so when I went in, I was just having these little counseling like group sessions, and people would say, hey, the next time you come, why don't we play some games? And I was like, okay, what do you want to play? And it was always bingo. So we started playing bingo. And then they would say, I tell you what, next time when you come, let's invite a few more people and let's have potluck. We'll just all bring something to the community rooms here and play bingo. And so then we'd spend 2 or 3 hours. And so that's what we were doing. And I never dreamed at that moment that it would be what it is today. So.
Well, that is quite different than I imagined that this story would go. But I'm guessing that COVID happens after you start these groups because of you saying 2019.
So by March the 4th, I think March the 4th sticks out as a date in my mind when everything's just stopped. And maybe that's the date, maybe it's not, but it was somewhere right around that date, the end of February, but that first of March. And I was like, oh my gracious. And these people were calling me on the phone. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? So I just sat down and I was brokenhearted with my son, telling my son he had an office. In the meantime of all this, girls, my son, and his wife got pregnant and we had triplets come into the house. And so, he set up an office. He worked from home and he set up an office in my living room right here behind me. He set up a desk here. And I'll never forget when COVID happened. I was devastated, and he's always been such an out of the box thinker. And he said, let's just sit down here. Let's just talk about what we're going to do. And he said, Mom, he said, the only thing you can do right now is either do phone sessions with them or you've got to figure out, he said, there's a program we use at work called Zoom. And I said, well, I know all about Zoom. I use Zoom on University of the Cumberlands. And I hadn't even thought about it. But here's what I did think. Oh my gracious. Old people in technology. This is not going to be fun. This is not. I said, Chris, it's so hard for me. I don't know that I could even instruct people over the phone how to do this. And he said, if it's going to work, if you're going to do anything during COVID, you're going to have to step out and try to do that. So that's what I did. I started talking to them over the phone one at a time. And I would walk them through. We built our website. Chris helped me with that. We got our website built on GoDaddy. So that was all a new experience for me. And then I would talk them through how to join IGOT Communities, and we would just put videos and things on and information. And I did a lot better by the website back then because it was the only way we could communicate. And then I had to teach them how to download Zoom on their phone or tablet or computer. And so day after day, one person at a time, I would do that. And so it just began to grow, and they would say, okay, so I have a sister in Ohio. And I said, well, get her on the phone and let's talk her through how to do it. Because then I learned how to connect phone calls and have more than one person on the phone. So then we'd talk that person through, and then they would tell us of another person, and we would talk that person through. And then by 2020, that was in 2019. 2020 in the spring we started. 2021 we had 700 members.
Wow.
And not all of them would play bingo, but they would get on and just talk sometimes because COVID really changed. I mean, people were desperate for community, and it was really teaching me just how important community is. So, they would get on and we grew, and then, it's 2026. We have people now. I remember we got into 15 states, had members in 15 states within that 1 year. We have members in 38 states now. I don't do any advertising. It's just word of mouth. It's just, who do you know? Who are you kin to? Where do they live? Are they 55 or older? And the reason we went to 55 is because so many people wanted to join that we just tried to go with kind of the national senior age. So here we are now. I was trying to figure out, we gave away last month, with the bingo games and the bingo expo, special gifts that people give us to buy grocery cards. Our goal now, and our goal always has been to help with the food insecurities, and to, narrow the technology divide for seniors, and just really build a social connection with people. And in COVID especially, people would sometimes cry and say, if I didn't see you all, I wouldn't see anyone for weeks. And just the stories just became so special to me, as we went through all of this. So,
is there a particular story that motivated you so that you knew that no matter what, you would not let this fail?
Yeah. Well, there's two.
Okay.
There's two that really stick out in my mind. One, and Kat, I no doubt you've seen her on, is Judy Bruner.
Yes.
Judy Bruner's husband had died just before COVID. And I feel like just before she joined, before we really knew what COVID was, I think she probably had COVID, because she ended up, her family didn't think she would live. And she was in bed. She was just really sick with a lot of the symptoms now that we know that are COVID. And when it was over, she couldn't walk. And they were scared to death she was going to die. They had connected her family had, to Facebook, and I think she may be even a cousin some way to Beverly Smith, which is an IGOT member, but Beverly and I had gotten together and made old-fashioned fried apple pies. And so they got Judy a computer, got her on Facebook, and some way she saw that. And then she had called Beverly about seeing that. And then Beverly talked her into how to get on. So she started getting on, and every day she would get stronger and stronger and stronger. And some days she would just weep and cry because she was so lonely, and she was in the middle of grief, and she had this illness and whatever disease was going on. She's also diabetic, but every day I just kept watching her and kind of journaling how I was seeing people and what was happening in their life, because actually, as working on my dissertation, I had considered I would probably maybe use this as a part of dissertation, but about COVID and the aging and social connection. But she started getting better. And then I got a phone call from one of her sisters who lives here in London. And she called in and she said, "Is this Debbie?" And I said, "Yeah." And she said, "I've just called to tell you that our family is so grateful because our sister was at the point of death. Nothing we could do could draw her out of that." And so she said, we got her a computer. She saw that video of Beverly and you all were talking about IGOT Communities, and gosh, it was so new then. and she said, it has literally saved her life. And their family believes that. And I can tell you that I watched her from the beginning to where she is now. And I can tell you, I think we had a huge part in helping her get herself back. I'm going to tell you three stories, actually. That one, I was in my office one day. I got a phone call from Iowa, and I was like, Iowa. And I'm talking to this nurse, at a hospital, and she told me who she was, and she said, "We have a patient that has told us about your organization. And I just wanted to call you and talk with you about it because we have been treating her for 7 years for depression. And virtually, we've not seen any real remarkable change, no matter what medicine we put on, no matter what tools we taught her to get through the depression. And she's coming in like a whole different person." And so she said the doctor was talking to her and asked her, what's different in your life? Can you, because you've changed and we've never seen you like this. And so is there anything you've done differently? And she said, well, the only thing I've really done different is, my sister lives in London, Kentucky, and she introduced me to this program called IGOT Communities. Frustrated with her sister if one of them wins and the other one don't, there's all kinds of things that go on with them. But for a nurse to call and say, we've treated her for 7 years and we've never seen any improvement until just the past few months. And then she said, the only thing I've done different is IGOT Communities. And so they wanted to know all about our program. And I talked with her doctor about the importance of, the social aspect of people feeling connected and like they have a friend in the world, like there's some hope, like there's a bright spot in their day. So that was one story that coming just actually from the medical field. We had another lady in Washington, in Renton, Washington. It's very close to Seattle. And her name, oh my gracious, Irene, I'll have to think. Kat, do you remember? We called her Miss Washington. She passed away year before last. Were you one then?
I don't think so. I don't remember that.
My memory's bad. There's so many people. I'll have to go. Merrick, Irene Merrick, I believe. That doesn't sound right. It's not Eileen. It's not maybe Irene, but I can look it up and let you know. But her last name was Merrick, and her daughter. So I had traveled to Cary, North Carolina, to meet a guy in a subdivision that owned a company called 2 Lumps of Sugar. And how I got connected with him, Jeannie Zanet had some work connection with him in New York. He had a company based there maybe, but anyway, Jeannie knew him, David Sherry, and so I went to Cary, and that's where I met all this Cary group. They lived in a big subdivision in Cary, North Carolina, and we did bingo, and you had to wear a mask. It was COVID. I mean, when you had to have a mask and you had to be set apart. We met outside in a cul-de-sac. Well, this lady, Donna Hoffman, worked for David Sherry, and she lived in Renton, Washington. And her mother, Eileen Merrick, she was at early onset dementia. And so Donna had found out through David about IGOT Communities, and so she called me. We got Miss Eileen connected, and she had been an avid quilter and a professional ballroom dancer. But she had gotten mild dementia, and they was trying to find a way to help her not to go downhill so much. So they connected her to IGOT Communities, and literally they said it was the thing that got her out of bed every single morning. And she would get on at 10 o'clock, which meant it was 7 o'clock where they were at. in the morning. But it's what they said got her out of bed for 3 years. And then later on, she developed cancer, bone cancer. And before she got really bad, I flew out to and spent a couple of days with her and did some interviews with her. And at that time, I think Eileen was 87, and she had a 94-year-old boyfriend that would come to the house and sit with her every day. And he started playing bingo. But his mind was really intact, and it was really great. But I mean, there's stories I could tell you all day long like this. So here's what I know. People have to stay socially connected. They just have to do that. If we're there for great health, I believe we were created for relationships, and so that's really what this is about. So,
well, it's quite interesting because Judy Bruner was the first person that I met when I logged into IGOT in Zoom, and she's the one that went through all the rules with me and, kind of onboarding of how it all worked. So that's interesting to hear her story because she's so vibrant. I could never imagine her in a different way. All right, Willie, I know you don't get to see this every day and hear these stories and, see how people are interacting, but what do you think of this so far?
Well, I just think it's wonderful, and I agree. We all need a sense of belonging and community, and, being able to reach out and talk to somebody, interact. Oh, yes, yeah. I think it is. I think it's a great thing that you are doing.
Well, I appreciate that. And, I am not on much because I do several other things besides IGOT. But, one thing I started helping them with is I know when my husband and I got ready to sign up for Social Security and Medicare, we were sitting here and he was getting ready to retire. And so he said, we were eating breakfast, and he said, how do we sign up for that? And I was like, golly, I don't know. And he said, well, how do we get our 401k money back? And I said, I don't know. But I said, listen, we both have college degrees, Doug. If we don't know, there's got to be a lot of other people that don't know. And that was part of that is part of the anxiety and the frustration with aging is people trying to figure out what they're supposed to do next. And so I really started educating myself on that. And like I said, Chris worked in the Medicare insurance side of that. And so I started helping with that and working with that. And just there are so many ways that seniors get scammed, even with the insurance part side of it. So just trying to protect people. When you love people, you just try to protect them. And so I try to learn as much as I can about anything that affects senior adults, just so that we can offer help for them. So it's challenging, but it's, there'll be days that I'm never on, and I'll be somewhere driving down the road thinking, I can't believe this is going on, because I'm not even checking on them, and they do everything because our organization. Here's what's remarkable about this nonprofit. No one's on the payroll for IGOT Communities. I'm not on the payroll for IGOT Communities. It is truly a nonprofit organization that is run by its membership on a volunteer basis. It's the most remarkable thing that I've ever seen. It's like a machine in a perpetual motion, and it just keeps going. And when I think about that, here's what I think. Only God could do something like this, to connect these people in these states and nobody's making a bundle of money on it. And we've literally given away probably by now, I guess, $275,000 in grocery gift cards that have been donated to us. And I just think that is miraculous.
Well, it certainly is a well-oiled machine. People I see, like somebody calls, I play at 2:00. That's my time slot. But there's the Monday person, and you know who's going to be calling, who's going to keep the big board. So, it's easy to see that people are very invested, that they feel like this is theirs as well. Like it's not Debbie's and we're just here. This is actually us, and we're responsible for this and keeping it moving along. So there's a lot of pride that I could see in that. And you should be very, very proud because, in a way it's a simplistic model, but it really works. And it is amazing because you have so many different states. How many are you up to now?
38. I really want us to get to 50 states, even if we have one member in the state. But I really, really want us to get there someday, and I believe that we will. Chris has always said, Mom, slow growth is so much more healthy than fast growth. So don't outgrow yourself. Just let it go slow, let it develop. And, I think, Kat, I think a couple things we did at the beginning is when we set it up, we took the Be Nine, Be Kind. We have always endorsed, and the membership endorses it, Be Kind, because sometimes even if people say something a little off color, some people will speak up and say, you got to be kind. I think the other thing is we've made it really about kindness, and we've tried to keep controversial topics out of our program. We try to keep politics out of our program, and we're very faith-based, but we try not to have it in your face. But I think everybody knows that we are built on faith, and but we don't shove that down anybody's throat. And so I think just kindness and faith, have carried us where it has, because there's just so much frustration and negativity in the world that people just want a safe place. They just want a safe place to belong.
Well, I think too, like you don't have to spend too much time. It's like just the right amount of time that you can get a little bit of socialization, especially, for people that maybe have been away from people and they're not ready, or they never want to be. Like, they're a social butterfly. They just like to engage to whatever they're comfortable with. And I do like that about what you've started, is that you can, engage as much as you want, or you can listen as much as you want, which is still engaging in its own way. So, I find it fascinating, just all of it. And when you think about IGOT, 10 years from now, what do you hope it looks like?
Our retention rate is really good. I mean, when people get on and become active, there's lots of people that are members that just read our newsletter, and they'll communicate with me off and on from time to time in different ways other than our programming. But our retention rate's really, really great. And so when I think about IGOT Communities 10 years from now, oh gosh, this sounds really big, but I'm such a big dreamer. I love it in London that we have a place that we gather, like at least in the summertime for potlucks. I would love to think that in Cary and the places that in Corpus Christi, where we've got big followings in both of those places, that anywhere where we have a group of people of at least 10 people in any community, that they're meeting with us online, but they're also together supporting each other. But I really I'm not a numbers person. Like, I don't want 1 billion people. That's not what I'm about. But I would love to have a healthy group in every single state that would reach out to people in their own state and connect and grow, and then as that grows, then eventually it could grow into, okay, so let's get together at this park and have a potluck. I always, Kat, want it to be a free membership. And so that means I hope 10 years from now that we have more sponsors who believe in us, and I believe that we will. I just want it to be a healthy organism that's got all kinds of little tentacles going out of it. I guess what you would call the best cancer in the world, if there's any such thing as that. It would just grow to something, that would spread all over the United States.
Well, let's tell everyone how they can join if they're in one of those states that you don't have a member, or if they're in a state where you have plenty of members. What do they need to do, and what are the qualifications?
So you have to be 55 or older. You just go to the website, which is www.igotcommunities.com. And when you get there, and a lot of people put in IGOT Community and they don't get there, but it's just igotcommunities.com. And when you get there on the main page, you'll find a Join tab. And on the Join tab, you complete that. You have to complete it completely. Once you complete that form, within at least probably 48 hours, you get a welcome letter from IGOT Communities, and you get a bingo card that you can print off, and you always use that card if you want to play. And then you just go to our calendar and scroll down and see what's happening. And you would have to download Zoom. That's also free. And once you've joined and you've downloaded Zoom, you're really ready to go. But when you get your welcome letter, we tell you what the passcodes are to get on to the programs. And then you just start playing.
And Willie, all of this is free. So, if you are at home and you need some connection, you want to play a fun game, it doesn't cost you anything. Just your time.
That's even better.
Yeah. So, and part of that is just because, like I said, I work with older people every day who are not eating the best food they can because they can't afford it. They live in compromised housing many times, and many times they're not taking their medicine because they just simply can't afford it. And so I don't want IGOT to ever be a burden. I want it to be the biggest blessing that anybody could have in their end of life experiences or aging experiences. I had to say end of life, but we're all going to get there someday. I think too, that the technology piece is hard, but I also think that as time demands for people to learn technology, it's easier for them really to connect with us because if you can do Facebook, you could do IGOT Communities very easily.
Yeah, I think so.
So we do have a Facebook page, and lots of times people go there thinking they can join, but you can't join from Facebook. You have to go to the website.
And you send out a birthday card. On your birthday, you're going to be getting a card. So, that's a really nice surprise the first year that you're in it. And a birthday card shows up, like a physical card.
Yeah. Hey, Kat, one of my favorite programs we do is on Thursday, and it's called I Got to Tell My Story. And we have guests all the time. And so obviously I'm going to be telling Carol, you've got to get in touch with Kat. She has a story. But we've had singer-songwriters on there. We've had artists that's taught watercolors. Carol, that heads that program, teaches members how to raise monarch butterflies in their homes. There are so many things that they do on Thursdays at 11. So if you really and it's just community, it's just a group of people that get on there and talk about all kinds of things, and people telling their stories. And we've had doctors on there talking about arthritis, and we've had all kinds of really great guests, people making peanut butter roll, and everybody's got something they do.
And diabetic tips also. You've been very good about passing along recipes and tips for people living with diabetes.
Yeah, we have an online cookbook, actually, and we do newsletters, but we have done terribly bad at updating those and keeping those the way we need to. But I keep hoping there's going to be a volunteer somewhere that's just great at newsletter that maybe will take that on someday and take care of that. So.
Well, there's something for everyone, and I really feel like that is how you built this. All right, Willie, I'm going to give you the last words here.
Well, trying to think.
Hey, Willie, let me ask you this. So, are you old enough to join?
Not yet. I've got 2 more years.
Okay. I bet you know somebody who is. And so, you could try to get them joined up, and then they can, when you're ready to go, they'll have you right keyed into it.
If you had it all over again, would you still take it on?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I just I cannot even sit at home by myself and think about it without smiling, because of all the people that I would have never known all over the United States. I would have never known these people had it not been for this program. And it's just hundreds of people that are so amazing, so amazing.
And at the website, can people who hear the story and feel compelled to donate, is there a donate button that they can do that?
There is a donate button. It's on the homepage. When you go to the homepage, right on the front, there is a place where you can donate. And all of our donations, like I said, we have no paid staff. All of our donations are either used for something that we may have to do administratively, but usually I have somebody that takes care of doing all of our website and all that. Hardly ever. It could be used for stamps, where we mail out our grocery gift cards. But most all of it we give it straight back to our seniors through prizes that they win. And so what we give for bingo prizes is every day we give $10 grocery gift cards from either Kroger or Walmart. And Judy Bruner, for one, she saves her cards all year. And, depending on how many times she wins, it's whatever it is. But I know one year she saved it, and she had saved $70 worth of gift cards. And she said she bought their entire family Thanksgiving meal with her IGOT gift cards. And so, but now here's how serious it really is, and why I would do it again. Sometimes people know when I'm mailing out the gift cards, and I mail them out at the beginning of the next month for June's. I just mailed today those gift cards, and people call me like the day after I've mailed them and said, "Do you know when I'm going to get my gift card? Because I really need some groceries." And I've never been in that situation. And they're getting a gift card that's $10. And they say, "I really could use that grocery money." I mean, that's how serious it really is. That's how desperate some people really are. And so, I think I would do it over again and again and again.
Well, this has been a fascinating look at a wonderful program that's actually in London, Kentucky. And we have enjoyed learning the backstory, Miss Debbie Gilbert. Thank you for your time and for starting such, I feel like it's a revolution almost. You've got your own revolution going.
Well, I just would say, to God be the glory. It's just, I'm glad he used me. That's all I can say. Thanks for having me. Both of you, thanks so much for having me.
And thank you.
I just appreciate being able to tell the story one more time.
It's a very